Okay, here we are, Dave. Prop the mic, PTM, with a very special episode coming to you with our first NFL podcast. Breaking away from hoops here to get some preseason future prop bets out there. How's it going?
Yes, sir. Very excited about this. It's we did our first futures pod a couple weeks ago with the WNBA. That was actually a lot of fun, right? Trying to predict win totals, but
Yeah,
this gets us back to our core, which is player props and
that's it.
and quite honestly, I'm pretty pumped up about football after watching some preseason over the last week and a half.
Yes, me too. Nice to
I have to say too,
see.
the preseason is was actually more entertaining than I was expecting. I think it's getting better.
You think
Partially
so?
because I think so, because I think they got rid of 1 week, right? Last season,
Yeah.
right? They got rid of one week, added the extra game to the regular season, and some of the teams are already playing their players, so I think that's it's pretty good.
Yeah, I like it. I think more so. I think they do play less, and I think most teams take the first couple weeks of the season become like the old preseason. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where like the preseason is for like those back of the roster, end of the roster sort of guys, and I know the first few weeks. That's why you can't get too over or under excited after those first couple weeks, because I think a lot of teams treat it as preseason. So if some of these picks aren't crushing in weeks 1, 2, 3, let's hang tight, and it's a long 18-week season, right?
Yeah, they had the extra week. It was funny. Did you know that I was watching the Chiefs game preseason a little bit, Chiefs Saints I think it was, and it looked like it was going to end in a tie. So then I looked up, obviously on my phone, do preseason games allow overtime? And I thought the answer would be obviously no, and it isn't. A couple years ago they changed the rule, but I can't believe years past they would allow these guys to play overtime in a meaningless game. Which is kind of ironic because it means even more now with gambling. So
didn't the Jets and Giants go to overtime, and I think Rex Ryan put Mark Sanchez in, and he ended up getting hurt or something. I mean, there's something happened with that. Yeah, that's probably why they got rid of it. Yeah,
it sounds very Jets like.
That's for sure.
All right, cool. So basically, our reason for kind of diving into these futures was our guys from Props.cash reached out, said we're putting these up. Start digging into them. Take a look. Let us know your thoughts. So we're actually going to structure this into pretty much 3 podcasts. One focused today on receiving yards, another one focused on passing yards, and then the last one would be rushing yards. We kind of like the yards over the touchdowns, which is another option. You can look at receiving touchdowns and such, but I don't know. We both thought that playing yards was probably a better direction for futures.
Yeah,
right?
The touchdowns are highly, high variability on the touchdowns. I think the yards are a little bit more predictable, so that's why we like it.
Exactly. We'll save those touchdown plays for the regular season.
Yes.
All right, cool. So you want to dive into this?
Let's do it.
I propose that we just go back and forth, right? Best pick. You throw out your first best pick, and then I'll throw out my best one, and we'll see if we overlap on any of them.
That works. I hadn't had these ranked in order of best to worst, but we're gonna do it on the fly here. Let's do it.
All right, let's go. All right, so what was standing out to you first?
Let's see. First, let's go with St. Brown from the Lions here. Amon-Ra St. Brown. All right, his line is 1,000 yards.
Okay.
He had 1161 in 2022, so he got there pretty easily. So a lot of the guys, the way I targeted guys for this, I guess we can I can touch on some of the methodology here. The way I targeted guys is we looked for trends over the course of the season. We for the most part, we eliminated week 17 and 18. Those weeks get a little weird, and we wanted to have the best. Give us the best data set. So we dropped those out, and we look for trends in terms of yardage, in terms of targets, and then in terms of yards per target, and who was trending upwards over the course of the season, because we think that will carry over to this season. So those are the guys I really looked at in terms of those 3 categories who had a nice upward trend across the board on all 3. So he was one of them. His yardage slope 165%, targets increasing, yards per target also increasing. He had a great rookie season. He got even better last year. He was 8th in yards per route run of all wide receivers last year. He was number 2 in per route target rate at over 30%, 30.3%. Number 1 was your boy Tyreek Hill. Right, so that's a huge percentage right there that he was already getting. He no longer has TJ Hawkinson, on the team. He was traded last season. DeAndre Swift was traded. And just I want to note, Swift was the number 2 most targeted receiver behind St. Brown last season. So now you have additional targets to come his way. You have Jameson Williams. He's serving a 6-game suspension for gambling, I believe. So he is another receiver there from the receiver room that St. Brown's not going to have to compete with. Some extra targets to go his way. And Jared Goff had his best season since 2018 last year, and I think he does improve in his second year in Detroit. So, what do you, any thoughts on St. Brown here? Was he one of the guys you were looking at?
Yeah, he wasn't. I didn't write him down because you did give me a hint yesterday that you were going to play him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that play. I think he was actually one of the players that I played individually on week after week last year, and he cashed very often. I think he's a rising star in the league. I think he could easily be a top receiver in the league if he keeps his trajectory. And like you said, there's not a lot behind him. He's got Josh Reynolds and Marvin Jones. Those are the other 2 starting receivers on the team. Just Josh Reynolds doesn't even have a prop line out. And Marvin Jones' prop line is 450 yards. So it just kind of
like 450 years old.
Yeah. So I think there's not a lot of other options. Yeah. So I think he's just going to get the ball a lot.
Yeah, I think so. He's obviously 2 seasons. If we go to the props.cash leagues, he's cleared in one of 2 that he cleared in last season. You got to there's only so much you can take from that rookie season there, but you love the the improvement year by year. So I think he's a great target here for an over on yards.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, cool. So I agree with that. I think that's good. I have like 3 number 1s. I'm gonna go with CeeDee Lamb. That's my number 1.
I like it.
All right. So what do we got on CD? So I think this is his 4th year in the league. First year in the league was 2020. Put up 935 yards with 110 targets. Second year in the league, 1,102 yards with 120 targets. Last year in the league, 1,359 yards with 156 targets. So his prop line is 1,075.5 yards, right? So he's cleared that in 2 of the last 3 years. The 1 year that he didn't clear it was his rookie year. So I like that. I like that he's trending upwards. His targets are up big time. I also like that last year he put up 1,359 yards with that mess of a quarterback situation that they had going on there, right? If you remember, Dak got injured. I think it was after week 1. Didn't return until he didn't return until like the halfway point. I think he maybe returned around week 8 or week 9 or something like that. And that's really where Lamb took off last year, right? So in the first half, he was averaging 69 yards per game. Second half, he averaged 89 yards per game. So big impact of having Dak come back. They also, right around the halfway point, a little bit later, they traded away Amari Cooper. I think that probably also helped give him a little bit more targets. Looking at his competition, you got Gallup is one of the other starting receivers. His line is 600. And Cooks, Brandon Cooks, I think is new to the team, I believe. Or maybe they got him last year. I don't remember. But
no, he's new this season. Yep.
He's new. Yeah, 700 yards is his line. So nobody else even near.
He's by far and away their number 1 option. Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing too, I think that's important to look at is just how many games did they play. If I'm right, I don't think he's missed a game in his entire career. So young guy, stays relatively healthy. So I think that's also important with these future props. Is you don't want a guy who's kind of questionable to make it to 15 games in a season or 16 or 17.
Yep.
This guy is going to be on the field, barring any freak accident. So CeeDee Lamb over 1,075.5 yards.
Love it. It was didn't make my list of the 10 guys I have here, but he was right there at number like 12 or 13. He was definitely on my target list. So love that pick. All right.
Okay. Back to you.
Okay. Let's see here. Let's go down my list. Who do you want to? All right. Let's go with Mr. Christian Watson from the Green Bay Packers. All right.
Ooh, that's an interesting one, right? Very different situation going on there.
Yes. So his line's 825 yards. Giant yardage slope here. So the trend on his yards increased big time. It's 342%, which is a very nice line going up like that. Target slope over 30%, 27% yards per target slope. I love his big play upside. Jordan Love has the big arm for those deep targets. He really came to life starting in week 10 last season. He had 3 touchdowns in that game, 107 yards against Dallas. He then went on to score 5 more touchdowns over the next 3 games. He averaged 4 catches a game for an average of 65 yards per game over the final 8 weeks of the season. So that's where you're getting this nice upward trend from. He was tied with Justin Jefferson for 3rd in yards per route run from week 10 on. So just was crushing it the second half of the season. Yeah. He had a 23% target share, even with a healthy Allen Lazard on the team. Allen Lazard is now on the Jets. So he was already at 23% target share. That's only going to go up here. There's not a lot of options. And then finally, I thought this was a nice stat. 26% of his targets were for 20 air yards or more. So they're just, bombing down the field to him. I think this is a great spot. There's no one else on the team to get these targets. I think he crushes this number.
Yeah, I mean his competition is Romeo Doubs and Jaden Reed. I actually don't even know who Jaden Reed is. And Doubs, I don't know. His line is set at 550. So I think it's a good play. I mean, I like the big play capability there, right? He could easily put up 4, 5, 6 50-yarders in the season, right? There's 300 yards. You got another 500 to go or so. So I like that.
Think about how awesome Justin Jefferson was last season. This dude was tied for third with him in yards per route run over the last, basically the second half of the season. I mean, it's insane. I think he's an under the radar kind of sneaky guy. Yeah, I like this. Not at a huge total at 825. So let's get it.
Yeah, that is nice. I mean, it is nice playing the guys who are in the like 600 to 900 range, because even if they do miss a game or two, they still got got some capability to make it up. Yeah. Okay, very nice. I like that one. I was thinking about him. I just get scared off of the Rodgers situation, but Packers seem to know what they're doing. They know when to get rid of the quarterbacks and dump them over to New York.
And they're going to be playing. They're not going to be great. They're going to be coming from behind. I feel like they're going to be throwing the ball a lot, and and Love's got that big arm, so I think it's a good one. But we've only gone through 3 years, so let's keep it moving.
Let's keep it going. All right. So you already alluded to this guy. I'm going with Justin Jefferson. This is the biggest line of the.
I'm a little surprised.
Yeah, I know it's not my style, but
big for you. Yeah, I know.
So his line was 1375.5 on FanDuel and Caesar. All right. So what has he done? I think this is also his 4th year in the league. 2020, he put up 1,400 yards. So he cleared it in his rookie year. 21, he had 1616, and 22 had 1809. Right. So he crushed his line. 125 targets in the first year, 167 in the second year, 184 in the third year. He's played pretty much every game. I like the stability at quarterback too. He's Kirk Cousins is going into his 6th season, which was surprising. I kind of think of him as a Redskin or whatever they are now, Commander. He was a Redskin though, and
yes.
And he's also thrown for 4,000 plus yards. I think in all but 1 year that he's been with Minnesota. So he's got a decent quarterback, an underrated quarterback. He's the best receiver in the league. You agree with that statement?
I think it's him or Chase. Yeah,
him or Chase. But I think in terms of consistency, he's more there. Yeah. Jordan Addison and KJ Osborne are his competition for catches.
Yeah,
KJ Osborne. Yeah, Osborne had some good games last year, and Addison's a rookie. So I think this is a good setup. Yeah. It's a lot of yards. If he ends up being injured for a couple games, this is probably done. But again, he's had a good track record of being on the field, and I think he's going to crush this one again.
Yeah, I like that. He's a stud. Not much more to say.
All right, cool.
That's a good one.
All right, keep it moving.
All right.
What do you like next?
Okay. I'm going to go with another maybe under the radar guy, Treylon Burks from the Titans.
Yeah.
His line's 675 yards. Again, giant upward trends over the second half of the season here. Last year when he played, he had Robert Woods and Austin Hooper on the team. They're both gone now. They accounted for 35% of team targets last year. So Burks should easily lead the Titans in targets. Really, there's no one else there. So kind of digging into his season last year a little bit, it really looked like he was about to break out after week 11 last season. He had 7 receptions for 111 yards in that game. Wow. Week 12, he had 4 receptions for 70 yards. Week 13, he had a 25-yard touchdown catch, right? So like 3 awesome games in a row. He got concussed on that play and missed the next 2 games. By the time he returned to the lineup, Tannehill was done. Tennessee was out of it. And the rest of the season was kind of, a waste. So I think, with a healthy Tannehill, I think a full season under his belt, he was a rookie last year. I think this is a nice low number. He is their wide receiver number 1. Another note here. I also like to look at, you can look up the percentage of targets that were inaccurate thrown to receivers. 15% is a pretty high number. 16% of his targets were inaccurate last year. Yes. So I think, some of that definitely came to whoever was at quarterback when Tannehill was out. And so I see that number decreasing. I think this guy's ready for a breakout season here.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard a lot of people high on him last year. But then, like you said, he kind of had a dip. But I think he's in a perfect position. And again, you got a veteran quarterback there that seems to have finally found a good home there. So I think he's set for some good things there.
Yeah. All right,
cool.
Hit me.
Let me see if I can pull up the props.cash screen. No, I don't see it for some reason. All right, we'll get it up later. Anyway, my third favorite pick, but it all, like I said, number ones.
Yeah.
Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry, one of my
Mhm.
favorite players in the league. I don't know why. I have a bunch of friends who are Commanders fans, so maybe that's why. But anyway, so first off, what I'll say, we didn't cover this up front, but we did post later last week. It's very important with these future lines to shop around. So
Yeah.
McLaurin on DraftKings is 900.5, on Caesars 975.5. So you're talking about basically an entire game difference there. So that's huge. So make sure if you're going to lock any of these in, go to the 3 or 4 main books. Make sure you find the best price.
Mhm.
But anyway, so McLaurin has cleared 900.5 in every season, despite having a carousel of quarterbacks in Washington.
Yep.
2019, he had 919 yards. 2020, he had 1,118 yards. 21, 1,053 yards. And last year, career high, 1,191 yards. So I like that he's really consistent too. Right, he's not having these like big blowout years. He's just going out there and kind of doing the same thing every
If he
year.
can do that with Carson Wentz at quarterback, he could do that with anybody there.
Yeah, exactly. His second half last year, like you mentioned, that's something that I was looking at as well. He had an 11% improvement over the first half in terms of yards per game. Quarterback this year, Sam Howell, who is Sam Howell? But he did play. I did look it up. He did play one game last year, so they kind of were like trying him out at the end of the year. I think it was on January 8th, so that was probably towards the end of the season. Sam Howell had 169 yards in that game, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. But most importantly, the highest number of targets, he had 6 targets to Terry McLaurin. McLaurin went 3 catches, 74 yards, including, I think, a 50-yard bomb. So I was encouraged to see that Howell had most of his focus on McLaurin. He had the most targets towards McLaurin in the one game that they played together. And he probably didn't even throw the ball that much in that game because, generally when they put a new quarterback out there, they like to run the ball a lot just to kind of build confidence. So I think he's primed for a great year. Hopefully we got some stability at the quarterback and you see 11 to 1,200 yards. Crush this around week 14, 15. Scary Terry.
All right. I'm into it. And I have another commander here. So I'm going to just, tag on here. So I think Sam Howell probably gets a start, but Jacoby Brissett is their backup now.
Yes.
I think there will be games that he plays that he starts this season. I just that's the way football goes.
That's how they do it there. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was surprisingly good. He had 11 starts last year. He was 11th in expected yards added per play, which is pretty good, and 5th in completion rate over in those 11 starts. So I think whether it's Howell or Brissett, they have both are better than Wentz, I think. So I think this shapes up well. So the guy I liked here was Dotson. His line is 700 yards. Again, huge upward trends over the second half of the season here. He led the team with 7 receiving touchdowns and only played in 12 games. So I love that. He was a red zone target. So I think they continue to look for him with the ball. I brought this up earlier. Another thing I like to look at is the inaccurate targets, 16%. Because of none other than Mr. Carson Wentz. So that number will come down as well, giving him more opportunities for receptions here. 8.6 yards per target. I think that was that's a pretty good number there. So Dotson over 700 yards. Let's do.
Yeah, I like that. I think they can both hit.
I think
they're both
so.
relatively low lines, and Dotson's really explosive. They both are. They're both deep ball threats. So Dotson's super quick. So I think that's a great play.
Nice. All right. Back at you.
Right, that might be the only one that we have 2 receivers from one team. Might be.
Possibly.
We'll see. All right. So back to me. This is the weirdest one, but I just couldn't ignore. So one of the things I looked at was how high above the line, the set line was the person's performance last year, right? Yep. The number one person who exceeded their line by the most, I think it was 67%, was Donovan Peoples-Jones. So I know you like that because I know you like the 3 named players.
We established that in episode 1 of PTM.
Right. Episode 1. More on the NBA side, but we got plenty in the WNBA and certainly in NFL too now.
Yes.
Again, shop it around. You get 500.5 yards on Caesars and 10% higher. So almost another game on DraftKings at 550. So Caesars is the place to go. All right, so what did he do in 2021? He had 597 yards. Much different team. I don't even remember who the quarterback was. Was that what's his name? I forgot his name. But 2022, 837 yards. So crushed this 500-yard total. His second half was slightly higher, 2%. Baker Mayfield, that's who I was thinking of. 2% higher in the second half, so it was kind of negligible.
Mm-hmm.
But quarterback situation there was very weird last year, right? Deshaun Watson came back kind of in
Mm-hmm.
the middle of the season, or towards
Yeah.
the second half of the season.
I think the last 6 games or so he played,
Yeah,
right?
last
Something
six
like that.
games, everybody was like freaking out that he wasn't very good. But like, think
Yeah.
about interjecting yourself into a new team,
Yeah.
into the end of the season. That's a very difficult situation. So for me, that's encouraging, right? The fact that Peoples-Jones stayed productive,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of maintained his first half stats even with
Yeah.
all that going on. They also added Amari Cooper there, so he also maintained his yardage with that. They now have Elijah Moore
Mm-hmm.
as well. So Cooper's line is 875, Elijah Moore's 550, and Peoples-Jones is 500. So he is actually the third option there, according to those numbers. But I just think it's too low. I mean, I think he's going to play the games. I think he's going to put up 40, 50 yards a game, and he'll crush this again.
Yeah, I think he's. I like Deshaun Watson this season, so I like the. I think he's going to have a nice bounce back here. So I think that's a good play, and I think you were wrong in thinking that would be the only team. The Commanders would be the only team that we had too, because I like Amari Cooper here.
Okay.
875 yards is his line. Nice upward trends. He's cleared this in 3 of his last 4 seasons. Just missed it in that one season in Dallas that he didn't make it. He matched his career high in targets last season, even with not having only 6 games from Watson, with 132 targets. He had 15 yards per reception, which was the second best average of his career. And now he gets a full season of Deshaun Watson. What I thought was interesting is, so I was reading. I like Warren Sharp. You're aware of this, and reading through his book, and he gets into he can get very technical with the NFL stuff in terms of like 11 personnel versus 12 personnel and
Right.
what that means. So just real quick, what that means for those who don't know: 11 personnel is a formation with 1 running back and 1 tight end. Then you get an extra receiver. 12 personnel is 1 running back and 2 tight ends. More of a running play. So when you see 11 personnel, it's a passing situation. When Deshaun Watson became the quarterback for the Browns, their 11 personnel lineups increased from 66% under Jacoby Brissett to 78% with Deshaun Watson at quarterback. So that means that they're a much more pass heavy team. I think they might be the least pass heavy team, just because with Nick Chubb, and they had Hunt there for a while. They were just a super, super run heavy team. But it seems like over those last 6 games when Watson was back, they were much more inclined to pass. So I like that continuing this season, and I think Cooper and Peoples-Jones are both nice plays here from Cleveland.
Yeah, no reason why they both can't hit. So
Yeah.
I like that, and it's also a little bit of a hedge too, right? Because if one hits, the other one doesn't hit, you're pretty much a washout.
Good point.
That's another approach
Yep.
for the more conservative players out there.
Yes.
All right, cool. How about we each do 2 more?
Okay.
All right. So I got Brandon Ayuk from San Francisco. Similar to some of the other picks, if instability at the quarterback position was paramount in San Fran last year. It's amazing what they did with this rotational quarterback thing, with all the injuries they had. But so I think he had a great year last year. 2020 he put up 748 yards. 21 he put up 826, and 22 last year he put up his first 1,000-yard season, 1,015. So he's trending in the right direction despite having like a different quarterback every 2 weeks. They got they got Brock Purdy over there this year. Wasn't he Mr. Irrelevant in the draft, and he ended up kind of leading them all the way to the NFC.
And Trey Lance and Sam Darnold. Nice quarterback room over there in San Francisco.
Oh wow, I didn't know Sam Darnold was over there. Yeah, he's the number 1 option over there. You got Deebo Samuel, not Curtis Samuel, at 725 yards. Jawan Jennings is the third option there. But Ayuk's line is 775.5 on DK, 800.5 on Caesar. So played at DK. Targets were also huge last year. His rookie year, 96, second year, 84, and last year, 114. So this guy's trending in the right direction, and all he needs is 80 yards. He's played 17 games each of the last 2 seasons. To me, this is a no-brainer. Go with Ayuk.
Nice. I like it. Yeah. I like, I'm high on San Francisco this year. I like the fact that even if Purdy gets hurt, whoever, I like that quarterback room to keep the, the level of play at a high level. So that'll benefit the receivers for sure.
Awesome.
All right. 2 more, you said, right?
Yep.
Okay. Let's go with Evan Ingram. 600 yards. He had 762 in 2022. I think one of the highest yardage upward trends at 473%. That's the slow percentage right there. Targets increased almost 40%, 40% trend. That's like a nice upward trajectory. He had career highs in his first season in Jacksonville in receptions, in yards, and tied for most TDs with 4 since his rookie season. He had 10 receptions of 20-plus yards, which was by far the most of his career. I think Trevor Lawrence is ready for another huge step forward. I think Ingram's one of the guys who will benefit from that. They have a strong receiving group. They got Christian Kirk and Zay Jones, both of whom also had career years under, getting the ball from Trevor Lawrence last season. And they added Calvin Ridley, who hasn't played in a couple of years and is in a contract year. So I think that he's 29 years old. He's right in the prime of his his athletic peak here. So lots of guys to throw the ball to. It's going to give defenses problems. They made the playoffs last year. They were looking great. They're ready to take another step forward. So Ingram over 600 yards.
Beautiful. Yeah, I mean, some people might be concerned about Calvin Ridley's presence taking away some yards, but they're different positions. I think different situational throws. I like Christian Kirk too. I didn't actually officially play him, but he was at 775, and that seemed like a no-brainer as well. That team's just going to explode this year. So, and I think Ridley's just going to open things up for the other ones.
Exactly.
And I would, out of all those players, I would stay away from Ridley just because sometimes you never know. Guys come back from being out for a year and they don't look like the same player. So, but if nothing else, he'll draw some defenders off of these guys, and I think Kirk and Ingram are both great plays. So I love that one.
Yeah, I like
Good.
that line.
We got a tight end.
400. Yeah, 400 is. 600. That's a nice line. I like that. That can be accomplished.
600 nothing, man. Yeah, nothing. Yeah. And those tight ends are durable too. That's what I like about that too.
Yeah.
All right. So here's my last play.
Okay.
So just to make sure we're clear to the audience here, everything we've put out so far is an over, right? We're looking to be excited about this and not, not sitting there the last week of the season sweating out a guy.
That's no fun.
But just to present one under, Michael Thomas. You've drafted him in your fantasy draft way too high multiple times in the past 3-4 seasons. Here's your time to get your revenge. So only book that I saw this available on was Caesars. It's not offered on DraftKings, not offered on FanDuel. Even checked this morning just to make sure it was still up. 725.5 yards. So that sounds really scary because, ironically, in 2019, he got 725 plus another 1,000. So he had 1,725. So this guy was the best receiver in the league at one point, or top 3 at least.
For sure.
Played 16 games that season, and then injuries have just taken over. 2020, he played 7 games, had 438 yards. So that's about 60 plus yards a game. 2021, he was out for the entire season. 2022, he came back. Everybody was optimistic again. Guys were keeping him as their sleepers, thinking they were going to have a steal in the draft. 171 yards in 3 games. So again, he averaged close to 60 yards a game, but only played 3 games. So let's say in the last 3 years, he's only played 10 games and he's averaged about 60 yards a game. So the question is, in order for him to get 725 yards over that, right, he would need to play, roughly, 12, 13 games. So do you think Michael Thomas is going to make 13 games into the season?
No.
So,
no.
He's also got Chris Olave, who honestly at this point is probably a better receiver than him. There's so many things pointing at just go for the under on here. And on week 3, when he goes out for the season, you'll have the earliest cash you could possibly have on a future. So Michael Thomas under 725.5 yards on Caesars.
All right. Very nice.
All right.
Let me go. Before I give my last one, let me just, this could be, nice information for some of our listeners here. So there ended up being about the same number. There was 14 on the overside, 15 on the underside of players who were negative trends across the 3 categories that I discussed, that they were either positive on all 3 or negative on all 3. So guys, you might want to look at, I'll run through the names really quick. I'm not going to dig into any of them, but these are the guys that were trending downwards across the board last season. Adam Thielen, Alec Pierce, Christian Kirk, Cortland Sutton, Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, Juju Smith-Schuster, Mark Andrews, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Marquise Brown, Michael Pittman Jr., Rashad Bateman, Stephon Diggs, Tyler Boyd, and Tyler Higbee. So those are guys, if anybody wants to go do a little bit extra digging, those are guys that I would look to target unders for.
I like that. And I also like that we're not ending the show on an under. So good to put that in now before your last over.
Yes.
All right, let's hear it.
Last one. I'm going to go with Dawson Knox. This is the lowest line we got here at 425 yards. He had 512 last season. He's cleared this in over the last 4 seasons. He's cleared this in 2, but those were the 2 most recent seasons. So he's cleared in 2 of his last 2. Great upward trends. You got Isaiah McKenzie gone. He had 65 targets last season. You got Devin Singletary gone. He had 52 targets last season. Knox had 65. So now you got, somebody who's getting a comparable number of targets. He has 2 of their receivers, pass catchers, not on the team anymore. Those targets are going to have to go to someone. He will definitely get more targets, I would imagine, than 65. He had a 74% completion percentage, which was the best on the Bills last season, better than Stephon Diggs, and 8 yards per attempt, which was 3rd behind Diggs and Gabriel Davis. And I thought this was interesting. If you want to get into a little bit of a narrative, Buffalo did draft another tight end in the first round, Dalton Kincaid. He's a super productive pass catcher. I think that they're pretty high on, so he'll push Knox for playing time. So I think that might light a fire under Knox here a bit. I still, I think the line's low enough here at 425. That given the guys that left, the little bit of pressure from the rookie, let's take Dawson Knox over 425 yards.
I like it. Yeah, I mean, he really didn't do much in the first 7-8 games of the season. He really came on in the back half of the year. Didn't do a lot in week 17, 18. So I think looking at weeks 9 through 16 are kind of your best sample. And he averaged 50 yards a game in that, right? So you're talking about, if he could just do that for, what was his line? 425. If you could do that for 9 games.
Yeah.
9 games. That's awesome.
Yeah. And you had, and if you look at the stats, just Josh Allen was a different quarterback that second half of the season.
I think he was hurt.
Yeah, he got hurt in that Jets game, and he just wasn't the same after that. So, if he could stay healthy, I think he crushes this line too.
That's awesome. Yeah. All right, so we got two tight end players.
Yeah,
love that. Love the tight ends. They just continue to rack up the yards with all those little catches.
Yeah, it's very consistent.
You're not going to get the big bombs, but that's why their lines are lower. And I love that. I think he's got one of the best quarterbacks in the league, so that's a great play.
Yeah. And then just before we finish out, I just ran down the list of the downward trending guys. I'll just run through the list of the positively trending guys here. A couple other names that we didn't mention, but that list includes Amari Cooper, St. Brown, Christian Watson, Dawson Knox, a lot of guys that I targeted here. Devonta Smith, DK Metcalf, Ingram, Garrett Wilson on the Jets. That was one of my picks. One of my other picks that we didn't get to here. Jamar Chase, Dotson, Jerry Jeudy. That was another one of my picks here that I dug into a little bit deeper. Love that one. Your boy Scary Terry, your other boy Travis Kelce, and then Treylon Burks.
Phenomenal list.
Yep.
Yeah, I think there's so many opportunities. So I think we're gonna we'll put these up on Twitter. We'll get the pod up. We'll put these up on Twitter, and I think we're also gonna try to pick our favorite 5 maybe and put them in a parlay. We don't usually do parlays, but I think could be fun to just like have them all together and track it for the season and send out an update every couple weeks. So so look for that. We'll get that out soon.
That'll be fun. All right, nice work here. First one in the books. Get going on your research for we're doing quarterbacks next.
Yep. Quarterbacks are next, and then we'll wrap it up with running backs to finish it.
All right, nice work. Have a listen. Get your picks locked in, and let's make some money in January.